Welcome to Watercolor Wednesday, Church of the Palms. We've got a great group out here, and we're back at Arlington Park, and we're today going to be working from a landscape that includes water. And there are lots of different views, and one way of finding out what you want to do is to use really your camera on your phone, or what we call a viewfinder. And a viewfinder can simply be held up and you can form a composition. You can also decide if you want to go vertical or horizontal. I choose to work this way so that I close one eye. Okay, so it's you can really look through the window. And I move it closer and I move it further away, and what I call cropping the view that I want to do. So I want to work horizontally because I want to deal with the paper and water. And I know one rule of thumb always in water or any landscape is always make that horizon line either high or low, okay? Never dead center. So I know I'm going to start this way, and I really like the view straight ahead, but I like even better the bridge. Now, today I'm going to be working just by sitting here, and I will say to you that I did out of a car window. Jim and I were in, this is Glacier National Park. We also went to Yellowstone. This is a snow scene. It's water, so this is a high horizon. See what I mean? This is a low. This is actually also high. I thought I had an example of low, which typically it's nice to get a lot of sky in your picture. But water, this painting is really chilly. This is like a 15-minute painting out the car window. Now here in Florida, we have a lot of green foliage, so we have to think about these wonderful lush colors that are in our foreground. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. I brought today my favorite book of Joe Miller's journals, and I pinpointed a couple of pieces that are very simple landscapes. And you can see that this one is a high horizon with water and distant trees. But one other aspect of any landscape, and I just absolutely adore the sky in this particular one. And this would be a low horizon, even though it does not have water. It has a beautiful little hint of landscape. This is a wet sky, and right now I see no clouds in the sky. But I'm going to tell you, that will be something I will want to do, is put some, I'm going to do it whether there's clouds in the sky or not. But look at this one with water, and this is a low horizon, and this is in Maine. So obviously the landscape is very different from what we see in Florida. But I just thought these are lovely examples of beautiful skies, beautiful water, and simple landscapes. And that's, now our landscape is not real simple, especially if you look across here. So I have placed my horizon low. Now I really see a lot of water. Technically, you know, I probably could do this design here and make that a lot of water. But to me that's kind of boring, okay? And then I could have the bridge here, and then I could do the landscape here and have a little sky. But I really want to play with sky, okay? I want to incorporate the sky. Now I have framed these two trees, and I choose not to put them in. I just simply couldn't find a shady spot where I could view that distance, okay? So my spot works for me. You have to choose your spot. This will have a bridge. Whether I choose, you know, I don't want it to be in the middle. So there you go. I already start with changing my mind. I want to move the bridge over here. Now this bridge curves a little, not quite that much. I'm making a Monet bridge maybe. And I will come back and maybe add with my paint brush my lines for this bridge. But for now, I want to just get the feeling of that bridge and how it spans across that space. And I'm going to get, oh, there's a bunch of birds over there. I probably won't, it would be neat to draw them in. I'm giving a little indication so I don't forget that this is very dark here and that there's some shadow in the water. Now I love painting water. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just draw the shapes that I see. Like this is, oh, it's simply the reflection of this wonderful tree that's right here. And this becomes, it's not like the tree we painted last week, but this tree is going to be the character of, oh, there's a palm tree underneath there. I think I might leave that one out. Okay, so this beautiful tree. Now behind it, gosh, this is really a beautiful tree. And so I have that tree suggested. And then I see some landscape. And I always try to go up on both sides. There's just something very pleasing about that shape. And someone said, think of it as a smile. Okay, if you do like this, it frowns. So it's not happy. So, well, we've already got this line, but see how this really is rhythmic and has a nice quality to it. Okay, so I'm ready to paint. And I'm using my lovely praying set, which I forgot to clean up since last week. I've been painting in acrylic today, and my last painting in the watercolor was with my big palette, but it's nice, pardon my head there, it's really nice to have a portable set. Sometimes it pays just to leave your paint right there. Now, I have my brushes in my pocket. Today I'm wearing my apron because I can keep up with things like, where was that paper towel? Oh yeah, right here. Now, I'm using a flat brush and two round brushes. Today I have 2 4s. Sometimes I have a 4 and a 6. All right, so we're going to start with the sky. And thank you, Paula, for the loan of the water container. Now, usually I sit with this in my lap, but today, to show you, I'm going to work right up like this. And I really wet that sky. And then I'm going to work with some blue. And again, I'm going to exaggerate the sky, just a touch of purple. Oh, it's really a beautiful blue sky. I better stick mostly with the blue. And I move that across. When you have a lot of water, it does the job for you. It just allows you to, and I'm going through that tree a little bit, to make the clouds. And you know, in this case, I think it doesn't matter that we let it run. All right, so while I'm at it, let's wet the water. Let's wet the water. Let's wet where the water's gonna be. And I leave a little dry brush down here. Yes, there'll be some blue. There'll be some blue reflected in this water, but honestly, it's mostly gonna be green. So water has to be a lot of layers. The sky's done, but the water has to be done with, look how I'm using the side of this brush, and it's creating those ripples. Now there's gonna be a whole lot more with the ripples, and I'm gonna use the green. Now in my praying set, this is a made by Dixon Company. It's just a praying set. I have Winsor Newton, and I have my Van Gogh. I have all my fancy little sets, but when I'm traveling, this does the job, and especially when you're outside like this. So I have a lot of green reflected from that tree. I'm gonna go ahead while this is a bit wet and put my yellow and green together with some brown. And this is these are going to be reflections, because, and then I see some white places, and this goes on. Oh, and then there's the bank. I'm going to have to do a little drawing over there to indicate. I even see rocks. Wow, I should have drawn those too. This is the reflection of the trees, and because this is tall here, then my reflections are going to be tall. As it moves down, my reflections will mirror. So it if this goes up like this, the reflections of the water will angle in the same way. So here I have to really go with where that tree is, and it's right here is the reflections. But just keep your strokes horizontal, and then I move some down here. Now I need to put in more color, but for right now this is a good baseline. I'm going to put my yellow greens in for my landscape. And I always begin with what's kind of distant. And you know, I'm looking at that bridge. That bridge is going to be dark on top of my yellow green. Now I'm probably going to pause here in about 3 more minutes, and I'm going to let you get started, and I'm going to let some of this dry and come back in with some detail. But you can see that anytime I have a vista like this, I'm layering light to go to dark. And it seems like, well, that's a good start, but there's a lot of detail that has to happen within the space. And we've got to now start dealing with some darks. And we've got to really pay attention to things like, yes, where are those? Oh, that bird was very nice going by. That's why a lot of people work from photographs, because they can capture such little moments. I believe in composites, which means that while you're working, sometimes I bring with me a photo of a bird if I wanted to place something in the photograph. I often take a photograph if I'm working on a larger piece. Sometimes it's best just to capture the essence of your space and not worry too much about capturing everything. Like, for instance, I see a rail way over there. I am not going to paint that rail. And I might not paint all of the lines in the bridge either. I might not paint those posts that are on the other side of the bridge, but I do want to capture the lights and the darks that are caused by the shadow of that bridge. So let's do a little detail, and that'll give you an idea where to keep going for the next half hour, 45 minutes. And I will come back. Is that okay if I do that? Come back and I'll add a little bit more detail. There is a lot of dark that I'm going to wiggle into the areas around this tree, and I'll just do a little bit of it. This is where I have fun, is the layering too. I want to keep the lights in this tree, and sometimes I really do need to go back and add more lights like this. Look at the top of that tree, how bright yellow it is. And going back, now my sky is almost dry. I can kind of wiggle up there. Wasn't that a fun little sky and how quick that is? Now there is a palm tree here. I probably am going to put that in. That's the thing. I wish I could just stop after 15 minutes, but I just can't. It's just too much. It's too much fun. And so this tree, actually it's not quite that dark. And let's talk about what is the rail. The rail is a dark green. So I'm going to show you my dark green. I'm putting my green and my brown. Well, I know none of us can stop. We want to keep going because we want to capture what we see, and it's just, again, it's very pleasant being out here. Oh, you know, I can't really put this in. You know why I can't put this in now? Because I haven't painted what's behind it. But you can see how dark I'm going to go when I start putting the bridge in. And so let's give it just a little more detail. And you see I am having trouble stopping even now. A little bit more detail. And this is a beautiful gray. And I'll always use my blue-brown for my gray. And isn't that sweet? I don't have a lot of light and dark on this. It's mostly dark. And I see some trunks that are back here. And I'm going to see some darks. I'm going to get some greens in here. Let's see, not quite that dark yet. So just adding a little water when you want to soften up your darks. Now this palm tree is going to be, we're going to do the fronds, and they're going to be painted with a small stroke. We've painted palm trees before, so we know how to paint palm trees. We live in Florida. And we know all the different kinds of palm trees that exist. And Jim, what kind of tree? Which one am I doing right here? Is that a royal? That's not a royal palm, is it? Cabbage palm.
Yes.
Coconut cabbage palm? Okay. when I came to Florida, I was used to pine trees. They do not have pine trees like North Carolina has pine trees. But I did learn a little bit about palm trees because Jim kept saying, I have never seen a palm tree that looked like that. So in other words, I didn't know my palm tree. So he had to educate me, and I still have to ask him, what kind of palm tree is this one? But I now I paid better attention. I used to like to paint cows, and that was a big mistake because I just like cows. But somebody told me one day, if you put horns on a cow, there's something else you're supposed to add.
It's not so.
Well, I didn't add it because, anyway.
It's not so.
It's not so. Oh, sometimes you don't have, okay, never mind. But you just have to know your subject. And one of the ways to know your subject is just use your eyes. And I think that's the most important thing about being an artist. Okay, so I want to make that obviously a little bit more, and I need some red. Jim will tell me, where's your complementary colors? So when I see reds or oranges in nature, I try to add them because they're going to really make a difference. Also, purple is another color that you don't often see, but in the Spanish moss, believe it or not, there is a touch of purple. And I'll add some of that Spanish moss. Obviously it's a little early for me to be putting the Spanish moss in, but you can kind of see how you can add the color. Right now there's just such beautiful ripples in the water and darker shadows, and it's just a matter of sitting here and putting a lot of that in. Okay, we have a far way to go today, so let's get started, and then I'll come back and show some detail. Okay? All right, I've been doing a little painting since we started today, and now I'm putting in the bridge, and I'm using a very dark green and just a little touch more water with that, because if you have the background painted, then you can just go right over your landscape with the bridge. Now the bridge has two sides to it. Obviously is I'm going to try to be a little fainter with the back lines. Are those
we had dogs last week. It's birds
now we
this
have
week.
Birds. Those are lovely sounds though. And we have a nice breeze too. The breeze really makes being out here quite a treat. So the bridge kind of connects across this body of water. So what I tried to do is to run some horizontal shadow lines. As you can see, it's a little darker over there. Now my lighter green is the second set of lines that are here. And it gives a sense of the 3-dimension of the bridge rail and what's happening here. I'm trying to make these lines sort of straight. They'll make a little more sense if they are straight. And then there are some cross lines, whether or not I choose to go back and do those, that will still say that the bridge is there. Now, what I did with my first wash is that I used that pale yellow green. I'm coming back now with a heavier green. As you can see, I worked over here with some middle green. I'm doing that here. I'm trying to suggest that there's a tree that's here that has some foliage shooting up into the sky. It's actually, I have to lean this way to see that other tree. And then there's some dark greens that are going on. And the dark green that I use is my green with a little blue and a little purple. Remember, that's always, well, that's really kind of dark. Sometimes if I feel like I've gotten a little too dark, I'll just extend and soften that just a bit. Then I'll put a little more here. And down at the bottom of the trees, I think especially with the path that's happening on this side, you know, I think I need a little thicker bottom here for this bridge. I just realized this is definitely thicker right here. As it comes across and is stabilized by the ground, there's some shadows in here and some rocks. So I kind of placed my darker lines, which I placed these dark areas to look like shadows on the rocks. And by just putting some dark shapes in here and leaving some highlighted lights, underneath the bridge I'm pushing a little more dark, and then this is actually in the water. Now, the way I use reflections, let me do a little bit of reflection with, if you see the trees here and here, they make their own, it's kind of like there's straight underneath, straight down, you have a wiggle line for this trunk. Oh, there's a bug, sorry bug. And then you have the reflections of the palms going on. Oh, thank you, Faith. That really is nice having that right there. I just hope I'm not going to get any water on your stool.
I'm not worried about it.
It's mostly water with a little paint in it.
No problem.
So this tree, see the dark that I have right here? And I probably should have a little more dark over here in this part. Where there is a dark, that must be repeated in the water, because then that tells you that, oh, and there's really a lot of light green, because there's a lot of light green in that tree. So I'm using more of that yellow green. And here's another little trick I do sometimes. I just take my finger, I go horizontally, just go horizontally, and then I think you could do it with a brush. And just pull down a little bit of that, as well as go across with a dry brush. Now, dry brush means that you have paint that you've kind of removed, and you just drag your brush. Now, I still see some greens through here, and it's very dark right through here. So you just observe where the lights and the darks are, and just by dragging your brush through, you can create that sense of water. All right, so I still see some more darks. I'm gonna go back to my little small brush, and I'm just gonna keep going with those little strokes. I do a lot with the water this way, just by adding the ripples in the water. And where I see the darks, where it seems to be the dark, for instance, right here where the trunk of the tree is, I really see that. I really see that trunk, just like I saw the trunks here and here. So this is how we want to go. I'll probably do a little bit more detail, but this is how I would finish my painting today. And thank you for joining us. That is really nice. What you've done here is to define the across the water from a different perspective than I did, and you're getting the greens in already in the water. I love it, and your sky is just lovely.
Thank you.
Oh, and here we have Paula, and look at her nice little set. This is a beautiful little set that she's working from, and she's used the two palm trees to kind of frame her little watercolor painting. Again, beautiful, Paula.
Thank you.
Nellie, good start. She's using a little frame set like I've done, and she has a house where she's looking, and so she's going to indicate that roof, and then she's starting very light, and she'll get darker and darker. So good job. Now we have Joanne over here who's painting. You're working in color pencils today, so you're starting with what pencil?
This is just a drawing itself.
And what she's done, look right here, it's the still life in front of the water, which is my seat, and the paint set. Love it. And so you can shoot your own photo and be in nature to reference what you have. Over here, Larry, did you finish? Show us what you have, if you don't mind. So here is kind of the finish, what I did, but I love your bridge. Look at the colors he's used in the tree, because that is gorgeous. The way he has beautiful color, and he's repeated that purple color in the
Great job, Larry.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, Madonna, do you mind holding that up? Very nice. Okay, so what you've done, that's good, because you have the ground. Now you might want to put a little green behind that, very carefully, that, and then start getting a little darker, and put some distant, see, you want to put a little bit with distant trees back here. That's all. Just wiggle
Can I take
some
a picture of yours?
light green. Absolutely you can. Ah, Kathy, that is sweet. You did the palm tree in the background.
Is that what that is?
And if you'll check out what Marie has, her setup is just divine. She has a little portable easel
trying to
that
get around
allows
here.
you to work well in watercolor. This is, she says, is quite lightweight. It has a table and her paint set. I love your water. Look how neat that is. Beautiful rendering of lights and darks. And of course she's going to put her background in. You may have to stay here a couple more hours.
Oh.
Very nice job,
Yeah.
everybody, and thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.